What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Half-Ass Pod Film Panel. Uh, Coming back here for the month of October for the scary movies. I am along here with brother Jake. Jake, say what's up to the people, man.
Here's Jake. Yeah, it's good to be back talking about one of my favorites, and but not it's great. It's great to do the film panel.
Here's Johnny.
It's just like it's hard not to laugh now, but good lord. Anyways, but no, it's great to be back. Film cast on them. You know.
Mega facts, man. And make sure you guys hit that like and that subscribe and all that good stuff. Today we are going to be talking about The Shining, or I should say tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick, written by Stephen King. Um, Jake, man, you're like an expert when it comes to this movie because you've seen this movie numerous amount of times. I've only seen this movie once in my entire adult life. So yeah.
Mhm.
And the only other time I actually saw this movie was the TV version when I was a kid. So half of the shit in this movie I've never seen before. So you can kind of guess what my reaction to it was on Tuesday when I actually sat down and watched this movie for the first time. But Jake, man, how do you feel about this movie? We already know it's a classic. Some people deem it to be one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Some people deem it to be a masterpiece. And after watching this movie, I'm kind of on that train as well. But how do you feel about The Shining? I mean, I know you recommended us to watch this movie, so I assume it's one of your favorites of all time. But
Mhm.
when it comes to this movie, man, I know it has a special place in your heart.
It does because, well, like you, I kind of grew up with the TV version, and I remember watching it with dad for the first time. Same like with a lot of horror movies like Halloween. It was definitely in that kind of era where it's like there was just a whole lot of the legendary horror movies that we look back upon, like Exorcist, Jaws, Halloween, The Thing, The Shining. Just it was like
Hmm.
a whole new generation of really scary stuff that was pushing the envelope. And and I didn't get to see like the actual Shining, the uncut where you get to see some of the wild stuff that's in this movie, and after your first viewing of the actual, not made for TV version, I bet it's like, whoa, this.
Yeah, I mean, especially for a movie that was made in 1980 or technically 1979, um, and they didn't have the kind of technology that we have nowadays, so everything was literally props. There was no super special effects. Like that shot with the blood coming through the elevator. Apparently, that took them
Yeah,
a whole year to do.
I heard that too, and it's well, that's the thing. Stanley Kubrick is notorious for just how authentic he tried to make things in his movies. Like just the quality. He was a perfectionist. Real bad about it, and every frame of this movie is so you know I don't know how it's so precise. You
Hmm.
feel like he's in total control of everything that is
Yep.
happening. And that shot right there is definitely like even people who haven't seen The Shining, they know about that. Like they've seen that, or in are the elevators and the blood because it's one of the most like I guess you could say like it's nightmarish for sure.
Yeah, very nightmarish. And the funny thing is, like, you can tell like the kind of tone that they use in this movie too, when they try and show you like give you like that gray line between whether it's like a hallucination, a vision, or whether it's actually happening. And that's one of the cool things about this movie because everything that you're seeing in this movie, you're questioning. You're questioning, yo, is this really happening? Is this an illusion? Is this a hallucination? Is this, whatever the fuck? Or is this real? You know, um, and at first, at the beginning of the movie, you think this movie is pretty much again. I went to this movie very blind in terms of like the plot and everything like that. Like I kind of remember the plot a little bit, like I knew it that it's a writer with his family. They go out in the middle of nowhere in a hotel.
Mhm.
But at the beginning of this movie, you think it's probably about the wife, you know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then as the movie goes along, you're like, okay, maybe it's about Jack. Maybe it's about the husband, the writer. Then you get further into the movie and you realize, oh, it's about Danny. It's about the son. The imaginary friend, all the visions. I mean, this movie has literally everything. And I want to ask you about that, Jake, too. So whenever the kid is doing it, he's like doing the voice of the imaginary friend. Is it actually the kid that's doing it, or is that like a voiceover?
It was the kid.
It was
The
the
kid.
kid.
Yeah, the young
Tell me.
actor. Like, I mean, I think like I don't know, like that act, like he was a really good actor, like for his age, by the way, because
Yeah.
he pulled that voice off, and it was so creepy. Throughout the movie, he would come back and um and there was also another theory that I won't get into right now about whether or not Danny was, like his involvement in the overall arc, but yeah, that his voice was definitely 100% his, and that and just to point out like how subtly creepy it was, like his mom knows about his imaginary friend, you know what
Hmm.
I mean? Just talking to his finger, and then in another scene, Danny's talking to it, but then it's like when he's doing the voice, he's saying like he sounds different, like almost an adult is talking through him.
Yeah. It's more like a deeper, you know what I mean, like a deeper, grungier voice to it.
Mhm. That's one of those subtle moments that just always sticks with me specifically because it's like, all right, so this kid is channeling. He's channeling something,
Hmm.
and even before we get to the hotel. But anyways, I don't want to get too ahead. But that's just how the movie starts.
No, no, no. You go ahead and get ahead, man. We're just
Mm.
having a discussion. It's not like if we're not going in any kind of order. So hey, go ahead, man.
I just know that if I go into all the details I want to talk about, this will end up being like the longest uh, film cast we've ever done, and still probably won't get to everything, about this movie. It is such a multi-layered movie about that. Almost everything about it is just one of those reasons why Kubrick, you know, like in all of his movies are like that. But
Hmm.
somebody pointed out this is the only time he ever did a horror movie.
Really?
Yeah, it was the only time he ever did like a real kind of horror movie. I mean, some of his other movies definitely have some horrific things, but this is a pure horror movie, I would say.
Damn. I mean, you would think after seeing this movie, you would kind of trust him with doing another. I mean, obviously, you kind of hear about the way he treated some of the actors on
Mm.
set of this movie, including dude, the story. Look, I mean, not to veer off too much off of the topic, but bro, I looked up was it Shelley Duvall? I think is the lady that plays the wife. What's the wife's name again? I just remember their last name was Torrance.
Wendy.
Wendy, that's right, because he kept saying Wendy, Wendy,
Wendy.
Wendy. But yeah, I shouldn't have, but I kind of dove deep a little bit into what are these actors up to now? Because you don't really, I've never seen anybody else in this movie other than um,
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson. Um, and I think at first I thought the guy at the beginning of the movie was Robert Redford, the old guy, but I don't think it was. But um, Shelley Duvall, man, like she fell off bad, bro. Like apparently this whole movie, like the process of this movie, the way Stanley Kubrick treated her on set too,
Yeah.
fucked her up like for good to where she like ended up retiring. Like she didn't even last 20 more years. I think she retired at what, late 90s, early 2000s. Wasn't really anything big after that though. I think she did one movie with Bruce Willis and that was it. Everything
Yeah.
else was like lower end, you know.
Yeah. It was just she just lost her passion to act because and it's a really fascinating, hole to go down because even the production behind the scenes of this movie is fascinating. Like the
Hmm.
type of things Kubrick was doing, like you said, with the actors. Like he was very hard on Shelley Duvall, and Roger Ebert wrote this great review where I think where he kind of busted it open for me because it's like he wanted her to feel alienated on the set, and the reason why is because well, it that would get the kind of emotions out of her, and for the movie sake, oftentimes, and that's just like stuff like he would do to kind of, keep that energy going. Like he wanted this, he was a very method kind of director. And he hired very method actors. Of course, Jack being one of the most method ever.
Mm-hmm.
They even said like he pushed Jack to his limits. Like, you know, like I think The Shining has the record for the most takes of one scene ever shot in a day.
Yeah, it was like 100, wasn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, over in the hundreds, triple digits, and I think it would be just Jack Nicholson, and he's just trying to like, and this wasn't just like, this was always like almost like he did this with Shelley and Jack's characters because, well, when they're in the hotel and they're starting to go kind of cuckoo, you know, I read something that said like the actors got so confused, so frustrated, so tired, because this take doesn't work. This take doesn't work. I need another one.
Mm-hmm.
Need another one. And it started like driving them a little crazy. And they'll do stuff. They'll like weird faces. They're just almost kind of becoming like, a little crazy themselves. And Kubrick absolutely did that on purpose. Like he absolutely did that. And that's why it's like Shelley Duvall, like when you watch like the finale of this movie, I mean, Shelley Duvall looks like she's genuinely terrified.
Yeah, throughout the whole movie, to the point where like throughout the movie, I'm even thinking to myself like, damn, this chick is so annoying. But at the same time, it's like, she kind of needs to act this way. Like she needs to
Yeah.
be this freaked out because look at what she's dealing with. I mean, we talked about a couple movies ago about the whole psychological aspect of everything. I mean, this is it right here, fam. Because you're talking about, you're walking into the room, the husband is telling you, hey, I'm writing, don't ever come in here, whatever. That whole thing too. I mean, you talk about we talk about like trauma, of course, that fucking word,
Mhm.
right? But with Jack Nicholson's character, you talk about his whole past and how. Remember at the beginning of the movie, they're saying that okay, he was an alcoholic. He had the accident with the son, right, where he like yanked the son's arm or some shit, and then the son dislocated his arm, and then it never happened again. He wasn't drinking until. So this is where I get confused at. So he says. So remember the bar scene? He goes into the bar and
Mhm.
he tells the bartender, he's like, this is the 5 months. So was he drinking for 5 months or he's been sober for the 5 months? Because I thought he was sober for years and then he started drinking it. It was weird.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too because, and I don't think it was like a little accident either. Like
Mhm.
it's definitely intentional. But of course, then this is also Jack kind of telling his story, his version of the story too. And you know, I mean, they might have thought he was sober during that period of time, but then again, he might have, had a few little secret powwows. You never know. But
Yeah.
but like, and I like that, right there, you pointed out that just a very subtle little kind of subplot there that that just kind of weaves the web even more with this movie. Just each strand that you can follow in this movie it's fascinating. And like I think that might be, I don't know if that's my favorite scene, but it's definitely a great scene where he's sitting in the bar and he's talking about what happened, and like he said, I didn't mean to hurt him. I love the little son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And it's and it just, Jack, that performance alone, I think is, I don't know, like it was definitely Kubrick directing him, but it was also Jack's. Just there's no one else who could have played that role. I can't think of a soul that could have played it with the same kind of maniacal. Because again, like if Shelley Duvall seemed genuinely terrified, Jack in this movie seemed genuinely like
Evil.
it's, yeah, like evil, insane, just
The,
dangerous.
the the hair to me is what really did it. Like everything was so perfect. It's because you already have Jack Nicholson. I mean, this is pre-Batman days, so nobody really knows how
Yeah.
the element of how far he can really go in terms of different genres. But when
Yeah.
we're just talking about horror, man, holy fuck, man! Like Jack Nicholson's got it, bro. I mean, look at this shit. Like that, this
Jesus.
shot right here to me is probably my favorite shot. I wouldn't say it's my favorite shot of the movie. One of my favorite shots in the movie, I'd say, probably possibly my favorite shot, just because when that popped up on screen and you see where the camera kind of zooms in, the way they would have the camera zoom in back in the day, like in the 70s and 80s, it had a more hilarious feel to it when you watch it years later. But
Mhm.
also when you're in this element of horror, it gives it probably a little bit more of an insane approach to it, where you're like, oh, these motherfuckers are crazy. You see the camera pan in so fast,
Yeah.
and then you see his face, and he's just staring. Um, and then at first I thought it was gonna be like a more of like a breaking the fourth wall thing, because again I don't remember watching this movie um too much, just because I saw it as a kid, and again that was a TV version. Watching it as an adult, man, for the first time, holy shit! Like at the beginning of the movie, I'm thinking, okay, is he gonna be breaking the fourth wall? Is he gonna be talking to the audience? But no, he like
Yeah.
just little glances at the camera, and then he just continues to go on and be crazy and shit. The whole
Mhm.
axe thing. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, where he's sitting in the office and old dude's telling him, he's like, hey, the last writer that we had, we hired to go up here, with his family, he ended up murdering his family and putting a shotgun to his mouth.
Yep.
Um, just want to let you know that. And of course, Jack Nicholson's character, he's like, look, man, I don't give a fuck. Just trying to go up here, get this money, trying to make this story. You already know what it is. But
Yeah.
you start to see his character continue to change more throughout the movie as the movie goes on. Because when he's in remember he's in that big ass room, right, where he's on a typewriter,
Yeah.
and his wife walks in, and he kind of tells her, hey man, I'm typing, whenever I'm in this room, don't matter what the fuck I'm doing. Like when I'm watching this, I'm like, damn, this shit is so out of left field. But again, you have to pay attention to the little details that, okay, he was an alcoholic. He also dealing with a little bit of trauma. And the kid is also fucked up. The wife is a little off too. So it's a whole
Yeah.
fucking bag of crazy with this family, anyways, to begin with. The imaginary friend too, you're dealing with that at the beginning of the movie. So to me, I was kind of confused. I was like, damn, it's kind of out of left field the way he's treating her. But that's when you really know, okay, this place, the hotel in itself, it's kind of like, not to bring Batman into this, but to bring Batman into this, it's kind of like Gotham, right? Gotham in
Mhm.
itself is a character.
Yeah.
This movie, the hotel, is a character. Like, because
Exactly.
you're seeing everybody change, except for the son, obviously. Because he was already fucking nuts, batshit crazy to
Yeah.
begin with in the movie. But everybody else is changing an entire movie. Um, and I remember where it was, it Grady was the name of the guy that was the last writer that killed his family, right? That was there and killed his family.
Yeah.
I think it was the bartender or one of the guys that worked there is also named Grady. Um, the guy that he was talking to in the
Yeah.
bathroom that was dropping him all those fucking nuggets. Like
Yeah.
this was some crazy ass shit. Again, whether it's Stephen King or Stanley Kubrick, like these small little details and these small little hints throughout the movie is what makes it so fucking terrifying.
Exactly. And that scene too. I don't know. That one might be my favorite too. It might be my favorite scene because it's like he's not saying he's Grady, but he's Jack's looking at him like, you were the caretaker. Like he's just picking it apart, and it goes from like friendly banter, and then as they keep talking, it gets dead serious.
Mm-hmm.
I corrected them. I mean, oh my god, like it's such a perfectly written scene too. And that's when the idea starts getting into his head about, what he's gonna do. And it's building up this whole point about, what, and like you said, that shot you pointed out a minute ago, definitely one of the eeriest shots, where he's just looking out the window. He's
Yeah.
just got this look, and you don't know what's going through his head. But he looks focused, and he's thinking, and he looks almost like you said, there's something almost like, unhinged about it. You can tell, like it's
Yeah.
he's, what the hell are you turning over right now? And then it's like, and then the scene where he talks to Grady, that puts the idea in his head about, his family. And, it's basically, and somebody pointed out that The Shining, actually, it was Stephen King who pointed it out. He said The Shining is ultimately about a man hurting his family,
Hmm.
and that horror is there, a real life horror. Like Stephen King always wrote about real life horrors, but in this kind of, metaphoric.
Kind of hidden into a fictional story.
Exactly. Like he there was this the quote, like Misery, like in Misery, Annie, where he breaks the guy's ankles. He always said that people ask me, what that novel's about, and I tell them it's about cocaine. Cocaine was my biggest fan. And
Yeah.
and
I got to say about this movie as well, though. Look, I mean, we talk about Shelley Duvall, we talk about Jack Nicholson, we talk about Stanley Kubrick, we talk about the writing in this movie with Stephen King, but we don't talk about the son, man.
yeah,
I mean, Danny. I mean, this shot right here, one of the most iconic shots, and not just in a horror movie history, but in just film history in general, is when
mhm.
he's on that little bike and he's going down the hallway, and you see, his little feet on the little pedals, and going, and you see a little innocent little kid. All of a sudden, you see the two girls at the end, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, it's about to go down. And I was trying to look for the other shot too, where he's playing with the toys, and in a little ball. They said it was a tennis ball, but it didn't look like a fucking tennis ball. But
Mhm.
either way, a lot of people describe it as a tennis ball.
Yeah.
But the little ball rolls over to him while he's playing with the toys, and he picks it up and then walks to that room, and the lady tries to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
That scene, that whole shot, I think is also that could be, I guess, deemed an iconic shot.
It is. Well, look like and you can see in our background, you see that weird trippy kind of carpeting, like, just and it seemed like, I mean, and you remember that shot when he's sitting on the rug playing with his toys.
Hmm.
It was such a trippy, like, I remember I paused the last time I watched it, and it was like, God, it just looks like there's no even nothing around him, like he's just, I don't know, it was almost like an eye trick.
Yeah,
And
it,
yeah.
it is weird, man. It's very weird watching this shot. Hell, even watching the entire scene, because regardless of whether it's an empty hotel or not, man, like that shot is weird, bro.
Look at that. That is just so weird. It's so it looks like he's not even in the real world right there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's symmetrical,
Perfectly
otherworldly,
vacuumed floor.
clean, the hotel
No
is like,
steam.
oh dude, I think the hotel is one of the scariest locations in any movie I've ever seen ever. And
Yeah.
and I think, and it's really, I think, just the way, well, the idea, like somebody had said this, like the hotel is basically like alive. Like there's a theory that the hotel is basically just kind of this living thing, and that it absorbs people. Like when something
Consumes
bad,
you.
like when something bad happens, somebody gets murdered, and or just anything like that, it's because that's the hotel's doing that to them. Because that's how it feeds. And so it's kind of like this eldritch, like supernatural thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to escape it. Once it consumes you, that's
Yeah,
when your whole family just goes straight to shit.
exactly. And what's so bizarre about, and you saw it at the end, by the way, too. Like, one of the most mind fuck, what what was that? It kind of endings.
Yeah, the ending left me. If there's one movie that really I get just mega confused with, it's got to be this one. What the fuck was the ending?
It was like, there's a lot of theories, of course, and definitely, I don't know if any of them make sense. I don't think you can make sense of it, and I think that's honestly what is scary about it. And I think if you reduce horror to its guts,
Mhm.
It's that which doesn't make sense. We cannot make sense of it. You know, he was always the caretaker type of thing. You know, it's I can't even be like I'm still thinking about that one, so I can't even answer that one yet.
Yeah, because like saying that, he's always been the caretaker. Hold on, let me see if I can get this shot in real quick.
Yeah.
At the Overlook Hotel, because this this whole picture that they had, where it is some weird shit that was going on too, because that the sign of the what is it, the sign of the devil or whatever, that has like the right hand up or the left hand up and then the other hand down, and you could barely see it over on this other one, but
Yeah.
um this picture right here is probably one of the most creepiest things I've seen in any horror movie of all time ever. Just
Legit.
this picture alone, because this is the last shot we saw of the movie, right?
Yes. The
Right after we
very
saw him frozen in the snow.
yes, and then it's just a slow zoom in,
Yeah,
and then
right into his face, smiling. He's got the little. Like, it's super fucking weird, man. Like it gives me chills just even like talking about the shit, just because there's no clear answer on it. There's no clear answer of what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to mean. And we're talking about a movie that came out 40 fucking years ago, and we still haven't gotten a clear answer on what it is.
yeah, there's still people trying to figure it out to this day. Like really, really deep diving into it. They made a whole documentary about it, like The Room 2. It was the
37 or something like that, right?
31. Yeah, exactly. It was the one, the famous room, and uh, we haven't even gotten to that scene. That scene.
Let's get into it, man, because I know you got quite a bit to say about that.
uh, it might be the scene that I don't know. Like I feel like because again, like I didn't watch this movie in its back in the day when I was a kid until like just the TV version. But then I think I was a teenager, like maybe 15, when I got to actually watch the uncut edition,
Hmm.
and that scene was never typically in the TV version at all. I don't think because you can't. It's just too disturbing, probably. But that scene is one of the most like it's for me. It's scared. It like back in the day, it almost traumatized me because I was just like, what the fuck? Like it was such a disturbing, unsettling, and then when creep, she's oh
Yeah.
my god, I'm just having flashbacks. It's like it's the scene I think a lot of people are definitely like remember because you ain't gonna forget it. Like it's not a jump scare at all. It's just
No, it's just a whole chain of events that makes it fucking scary as shit. And that's the whole thing about this entire movie, to be honest, because especially when you get towards the end and you start seeing where he's chasing them, and they're pretty much trapped in the snow, and it's the small details of this movie that really makes me kind of appreciate everything that Stanley Kubrick, even though obviously you hear the dude was a fucking maniac, but
yeah,
I guess with good reason. Again, I don't know every fucking detail, so maybe he did some really horrible shit, I guess, behind the scenes. But
yeah,
man, you remember the scene where she's pushing she's pushing Danny through the window at the end, and he gets to
yeah,
the window where the window's kind of cracked a little bit. It can't go all the way up; it can only go about halfway up, and it gets stuck. Also, there's snow piling through the fucking window too.
yeah.
It's kind of blocking the window. Attention to detail. That was fucking awesome, and that was smart.
Incredible.
Especially for that being in 1980, and seeing that. How do we go from a movie like that in 1980 where we got that much attention to detail with just a window, just getting your two protagonists through the fucking window? Well, I guess one of them through the window, the other one couldn't get through it.
Yeah,
And then now we're still in 2023 and we're still using just the window's just wide open. Let's just go through it.
yeah.
Just and I'm like, man, had I seen The Shining, and I'm a horror movie director in
Mhm.
2023, or hell, if I was a horror director in 2007, and I saw The Shining and saw that attention to detail, bam, I'm putting maybe a little bit more thought process into how do I get my protagonist, how do I get my character out of the situation
Yeah.
when they're getting chased by somebody, especially in a slasher movie, man. It's so fucking easy, so easy.
Mhm. Well, it's there's no stakes, you know, in a lot of modern horror films for that reason. It's like even something as small as like the window is like I can't get through it, and or you know even just like I love how like how the snow is starting to pile up, like I think I heard something like say because in the book the hotel burns, and but in the movie it freezes, so that's kind of a polar opposite thing going on there, and yeah, like and that little subtlety that you see, like that's how you can create suspense from. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And there's just not enough suspense in horror movies these days. It's always like you get this. It's like something's wrong. Oh, there could be something in that dark hallway. Oh, never mind. It's just a cat. And then she
Yeah,
turns around. Blah. It's jump scare, and it's like fuck off.
yeah, they give you a couple jump scares, a little couple of insertions, right, with the
Exactly.
propaganda, and a dark theme, and that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, they think like let's have a cold one. We scared the pants off of them. But then it's like you really think about like how The Shining just has this kind of slow burn build up to like there's really not a jump scare in this movie. There's
Hmm.
not. I really think about that. There's not one moment that startles you. It's always something that kind of slowly comes into focus, and then you slowly just kind of realize, and it's such a like it scares you with ideas and atmosphere. And I think the closest thing to more like you wouldn't consider the old woman moment a jump scare. You consider that like a trick. Like, you fell for it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you're watching him and then suddenly he realizes, it's just ugh.
to me, that's more of a like what I was feeling more throughout this movie is more of like a creeping up. You got the hair standing on your back type of goosebump feel. That's the kind of thing that I got from this movie. I didn't not necessarily got like you said, like I didn't get any jump scares or anything like that. I didn't get any like, oh, what's around the corner or anything like that. It's more of like, all right, this person getting closer and closer and closer. Like you go back to the bat scene, right?
Hmm.
Where Wendy's holding the bat and he's walking up the steps and he's saying, Wendy, give me the bat, Wendy, give me the bat, blah, blah, blah. And he's changing his tone every time he opens up his mouth in that scene. If you pay
Yeah.
attention to it, like he 1 minute he's like, Wendy, and he's like, Wendy,
Indeed.
so like that whole scene right there where she's backing up, she's got the bat, and he's walking up the steps, she hits him, he falls, whatever. um that whole scene to me I thought was completely perfect, because when you're sitting there and you're watching them go back and forth, she's scared, you feel it. He's being insane. You don't know what his next fucking move is either. When he's sitting there trying to calm her down. Um, to me, that whole scene right there is where everything, your hair is starting to stand up on your back, and your hair is up on your back for a good minute
Exactly.
and a half, which is how long that scene is.
Hmm.
That to me, that's the common feel that I get throughout this whole movie. It is not necessarily like you said, like a jump scare where I'm like, all right, she's reaching for the door. What's gonna jump out of the door? Nothing like that. It's more of like, oh, something's happening. She's having a vision. This person's having a vision.
Yeah.
Danny's walking to this room. It's a dark ass room, and now he's walking around and he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Um, more so those kind of feelings throughout the movie.
It's like and you put your finger on it because that scene just it had that sort of I want to call it rising attention building, but it had that rising kind of the danger is getting worse and worse, and because the reason why she's in that state is because remember she was reading what he had been writing this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and all work and no play.
Oh, did I lose?
And as she was reading through the pages, it slowly started to dawn on her. Her husband has gone completely insane.
Yep.
And then what's the scare? Is him just coming. He's in the room and he says, "You like it?"
Yep.
And then that's when it starts
She
kicking up.
turns around and when she's reading the papers, I do want to ask you this. This is one of the points where I thought that it was a little bit overacting. In this case, like it kind of did get annoying. Now, throughout the movie, it wasn't more like, oh, here we go again. She's acting. No, like you're gonna act that way when your spouse is completely insane and your kid is completely fucking insane, and you're in this big ass hotel, and everybody else, the people that you're encountering, are also insane, and you're having these weird fucking chain of events, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, to me, that it's completely justified. But it's just like in this particular scene though, where she's reading what the shit that he was typing, and she's like starting to freak out. Like I understand it is some weird shit, that she's reading and everything. He's repeating everything. I get it.
Yeah.
But was it a bit overacting where she's like sitting there like while she's reading what he's writing?
Yeah, it's just I would say, um, because and that's the thing. I think most of this movie kind of is, you could say, is a bit overacted because again, it harkens back to how Kubrick was, pushing them, just like making them just get more and more bizarre with each take, and like she seemed like I think what you're trying to say is that she's like you would see that and feel distress, but it seems like she was like over distress. It's almost like each page, you know, and I think by that point, and this is something I also want to get into, by the way, because there's sort of like because it's affecting her too, like her, stability. Like I think I heard this theory that it's they're not being possessed. It's just their real selves coming out. That's what the hotel's doing to them. It's bringing who they are out. And for Wendy's character, it was just this sort of fearful, timid, just shaking, kind of like I always kind of compare it to like one of those shaking Chihuahua dogs, just scared of everything. And while Jack's kind of becoming this more violent, unhinged, hateful, resents his family. And in fact, that whole scene, it all finally kind of comes out that she's terrified of her husband and
Mm-hmm.
he hates his wife.
Yeah.
Just, do you ever have a single thought about my responsibilities? Like, it just, like,
And yeah, like you saw that in that first scene of that room, that typewriting room that he was in, where
yeah.
he was letting her know he's like you said, like my responsibilities, and he's like yelling at her. He's telling her he's like,
Mhm.
whether I'm typing or not, don't come in here, blah blah blah, whatever. It pretty much like the finger poke, into the forehead, more of
Mhm.
like look, you stay out of this fucking room,
Yeah.
whenever I'm in here. Um, and like I said earlier, that's part of the house being a part of that character, right? Consuming these people, consuming this entire family, essentially. Now I know that there's a sequel slash spinoff or whatever you want to call it of Doctor Sleep, where it follows the kid Danny, um,
Yeah.
in those events. Which, to be honest, I wouldn't mind. Now after watching the movie, I might have to check that out. To be honest, just to see what's little old
Good.
Danny up to, as an adult. But
Yeah. It's
um,
good. It's good, by the way.
okay,
If you're a fan of the book and the movie, it's satisfying. It's a satisfying movie. Although I don't it's not going to be nearly as good or even nearly as much of a horror movie. But as far as like a story in and of itself, Doctor Sleep is really good, and it definitely has some great
iconic
like
shots in it.
yeah, like it's a good movie. It was directed by Mike Flanagan, who's a very gifted director, and it's is like the way it ties into The Shining. I thought was very very like brilliant. I was really as a fan of the movie and the book, I was really satisfied with that movie. It's a great movie in its own right.
Why did they call it Doctor Sleep? Is it because he has trouble sleeping?
Because well, like Danny. Okay, so Danny basically it dives more into what The Shining is. You know,
Okay,
The
like the
Shining.
actual Shining, like where they said that Jack was the Shining, and okay,
Mhm. Yeah, because well, you remember what was his name?
the black dude,
The
right?
yeah, the old man. He was
Yeah,
telling him about it because he had it too.
yeah.
He had we called it Shining, and then it
I love
gets
how they
more.
just iced old dude too in that movie in The Shining. Like he just showed up, all that fucking cared, but he just shows up and then just gets axed.
Yeah, it was a sad. It was like because I really liked him too. He was like because he came there to try and save Danny, but then he just gets axed immediately. It is like I think it's the only time he actually did kill somebody, like Jack,
Yeah,
like and and it just show like this is dead serious. He is, and I don't know if you remember right after he did it. There's this shot of him just standing back up, Jack after doing it, and
yeah.
he looks totally like fucking just like possessed by Satan or something. Like right there, yeah. Like this is like a monster now. Like he's just a monster. The demons within are just completely out, and he's killing everything in sight.
Yeah, man. This I gotta tell you, look, man. To me, it's the fucking hair, man. That hair, bro.
So,
That's some sick, twisted shit, man. Like you want your bad guy to have that walk around and axe murdering people in an abandoned hotel. Yeah, in a
yeah.
snowstorm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Something about it really does bring it together. Like I think the wrong hairstyle would have been like, and so well, and I think the reason why that is because it looks so normal. He looks like a normal man his age.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Just like a
From like the
middle aged.
'80s.
Yeah, and it's just like he looks like a father. He looks like, just he's balding, his hair's thinning, just kind of like mine is. And it's just clearly just like this is just a normal guy, and it could be any guy.
You got that No Country for Old Men haircut. That's what it is.
Exactly. I was just thinking the same exact thing. Like, why do so many killers have that haircut? You know.
The No
I'll,
Country for Old Men joint, man.
I'd love to talk about that movie with you sometime too, if you ever
Yeah,
want to do it.
I gotta go back and watch that one too, man. I haven't watched that one since it came out too.
Oh,
It's been a hot minute. That's a good
it
ass movie.
it
Josh
really is.
Brolin in
Oh,
that too.
dude, Brolin, like his character was so great, and
I think it was
again,
Tommy Lee Jones in it too, right?
Jones, like he was the sheriff, and his character, he's probably the best character. And then there was like Anton Chigurh, yeah, Javier Bardem, I believe was the actor's
Yeah.
name,
Javier Bardem. Yeah.
Javier Bardem, and just probably the coldest killer I've ever seen in anything.
Oh
Just,
man, what a
ugh,
fucking movie, man.
yeah,
Dude, you know what else is good? I know we're going off topic a little bit. You know what else is a good
yeah,
movie? Fucking just is so random, but fucking Sicario, man.
Sicario, yeah,
Yeah. Have you seen that with Emily Blunt and uh Benicio del Toro? I think
Del
it's
Toro.
how you say it.
Yeah, Del Toro was in
Yeah,
it,
Del
and
Toro.
I haven't finished it yet, but I
Oh my
started it.
god, dude, you got to watch that, bro. I think I might have somebody else is in it too, but I can't remember who it is. I know it's at least Emily Blunt and Del Toro. They're the two main ones, but yeah, man, that's a bad movie right there, bro. You gotta go. Yeah,
Okay,
you gotta watch that shit.
I'll give it a watch because I could tell like it was already like this is an unusually like gritty and just really good movie, unusually
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
And and I could think, just I really, not about it, and just not to get too far off of the horror topic, but I would like to, review more movies in the future. I mean, the film cast can, you know, you me a horror aficionados, but I could talk about movies all day. Like I've dipped
Mega
my
facts.
toes in a bunch of different genres and classics and all that.
Mega facts. Yeah, because movies nowadays are fucking shit for the most part.
You can say that again.
But with the Shining, I do want to add this too. For it being a part of the horror genre and being one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and again, some people would say probably arguably the greatest horror movie of all time. Definitely among a lot of people's favorites. Did this win any awards, by the way? I don't think I even looked that up.
I don't think
Did it win an Oscar?
it didn't. It
Okay.
it got very little appreciation at the time.
So it's one of those movies that they kind of over time it became
Yeah,
okay.
and it built a reputation. And there's some videos about that kind of deep dive into that because a lot of people, including Stephen King himself, just they didn't like it. They even hated it. You know, like it was just. I think King said that it was very cold, and he said I think Kubrick made a movie that hurts people, and this guy made a good video, and he said, well, I think that was kind of the point. Kubrick made a movie that pushed the boundaries of what we thought horror was capable of. This movie gets in your head.
Yeah, it does.
And it fucks with you. I mean, it really is like, and I think that's the reason why me personally, it scares me on a level more than any other movie. I think on a deeper level. Man, it's not a fun, jumpy, good time like your Halloweens.
Yeah.
It's more like this is a really, really dark, dreading, feelings.
And
Like
I think the reason why it is that is because, and the reason why a lot of us look at it that way is simply because there's no redemption in the end, right? There's no like, oh, Jack becomes this good guy, or kind of like Insidious, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, here's all this evil, and then you watch the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, there's evil throughout, it is going through this past, whatever, and then by the end of the movie, it's like, oh, well, we dealt with the spirit, oh, well, it's all good, we're all good to go, everybody's safe. All right, let's get out of this house. No, this is one of those things where it's like, oh, not only is he dealing with his inner demons, not only are his inner demons literally killing everybody, but we don't really know because again the ending is weird. But maybe Doctor Sleep, again, I gotta watch the movie just to kind of get maybe a little more clarification on what the ending of this one was.
Exactly.
But you're dealing with all this, internal stuff, emotional stuff, mental stuff, spiritual in this movie as well. Like I mentioned with the whole, sign thing, right? The one arm up, the other arm down, whatever the fuck in that picture. All of that is added up into, it's not going to be like like you said, your fun slasher, running from door to door because, man with mask and weapon is chasing you. No, it's, oh yeah, your normal average man with an axe is running around trying to kill his wife in an abandoned hotel because he's dealing with his actual demons. And again, it's not a movie that in the end it's like, okay, now we brought in a priest and we summoned him, whatever the fuck, we got rid of the fucking demon, husband and wife and kid are all right. No, it's he's going on this fucking axe murdering spree and trying to kill the wife and the kid. The kid gets away. We don't really know what happens. We see that the mom and Wendy and Danny they reunite. Was it under? Was that part of the maze, right? Or is that underground?
It was outside of the maze, like he
outside. Okay, outside in the maze. Okay, so they found each other outside in the maze, and then he ended up just freezing to death. Because remember, in the end, he's running around with the axe and he's doing this and all the, and then in the end, he's completely frozen. And you got that, obviously, that famous fucking shot of him, just his neck. He's just.
It's all screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and like you said, like it's just one of the most, like it's not a pleasant ending if you look at it. I mean, yeah, they get out alive, and you could assume that they, like maybe got made it back. Well, there was a sequel, so yeah, they did make it back, but it didn't matter. Like the damage was done. Like evil pretty much like won. Like their father went insane, tried to kill them, and whatever evil was in that hotel is still in that hotel. You know what I mean? And that's the feeling. That's what it leaves you on that note. Again with the
Mhm.
photo that and like you said, like most people don't have like the cojones to really end a movie on a note like that. You know what I mean? Just something that's it's like you know, I guess you could say um kind of like Hereditary. Like Hereditary kind of had an ending, that harkens to that, where it's like, no, the good guy, no one gets out of this alive.
Yeah.
Like whatever just happened, and we live with it, and I think that leaves you with a creepier feeling. You know what I mean? That leaves you with just but also like I don't compare the two because Hereditary is pretty like on the nose about like what its implications was. The Shining doesn't give you the answer.
Yeah.
It knows that if it leaves you wondering what the fuck is going on. Cue cue the whoa. That's my reaction to this whole movie my entire life.
Yeah. I gotta say, man, when it comes to The Shining, different kind of horror movie. Um, in fact, man, I gotta say, it's such a good movie that I don't even think I even have a favorite part of the movie because just because of the multiple parts that I mentioned, like those are my favorite. You got the part where Danny's riding down the hallway. You kind of have that. That's when your hair starts to stand up. You got where the ball rolls into the room, hair stands up. You got
Oh shit.
where Wendy's, she's backing up with the bat. As soon as she hits those steps and she's like walking up backwards up the steps, and you hear Wendy, Wendy, hair stands up. And he's staring outside of the window. Hair stands up. Again, I don't know the difference between what Stephen King wrote in the book and what Stanley Kubrick made for the movie.
Yeah.
Um, Apparently, from the way Stephen King describes it, is two completely different fucking versions of the
It
story.
is.
I'll never know because I don't really.
Yeah.
I probably would never read the book, but
You
um,
should. If you ever do, like you should. It's definitely scary in its own right. It's basically the same story, just
mhm.
it's a one of those rare instances where it's like, well, you get two masters of their crafts telling the same story, and you could really see how just one man's, way of thinking could spin it in a totally different way. Um,
So what? So what's the difference between the book and the movie in terms of what Stephen King didn't like? Because I mean, where it's completely right, where it's saying like, yeah, it's putting people in a bad light. Well, it's supposed to. That's pretty much what Stanley Kubrick was trying to do. Is like, not everybody that deals with their demons is going to have a good outcome.
yeah, it's and I think that was really what bothered King about it is that King is, I guess, a little bit more of a hopeful. Um,
So
there's
how
this
did the book end?
the book ended similar, like basically the same. Like again, mom and Danny get out alive, and the father's just kind of trapped again, like the hotel. But the thing, and King pointed this out too. He said, just the biggest difference is the difference between reading the book and watching the movie. He said I felt like the book, and I'm quoting King. He said I felt like my book has a warmth to it. It's one of those books that you really get into the characters' heads, and it's more about you know and in any King movie, like he definitely is great with the characters. You get close to them, you know them, and he said, and it's you feel a warmth from it. And the movie, it's cold, and literally, like he said, like at the end of the book, the hotel burns, and at
Really?
the end, yes, like totally burns, blows up, and then at the end of the movie, it freezes. And
Wow. Okay.
so it's
Okay.
a total polar opposite, and you know, and I've watched so much about The Shining and just the differences between the two. But King said he talked to Kubrick one time, you know, about the movie, and Kubrick was saying like, you know, it's like, yeah, I like but isn't it interesting how, you know, anything supernatural basically means that we continue to exist after death. You know, I think that's a good thing. That means we do defeat death. And then King said, "Well, I don't agree with that because what about hell? You know?" And then Kubrick said, "I don't believe in hell."
Wow.
So you have basically those two different perspectives right there. You got a man who that kind of believes in that in God and hell, and like you said, that the spiritual aspect of it probably really came from King. And but meanwhile, you got Kubrick, who's more or less kind of looking at it from a total kind of atheistic, almost nihilistic, you know, way of doing it. Like they're fucked. There's no, you know, and that's why I think some people are kind of might have something when they say that there is that in Kubrick's in the movie, it could just be all of them. The site,
Yeah.
it's just
Just all in their head.
yeah. I mean, just they're going bonkers up there by themselves in the middle of nowhere, you know, and that would make sense. I mean, it would in that universe that Kubrick created, it would make sense because, well, that's what Kubrick believed. Kubrick was always about the he was probably the most psychological as a filmmaker, I would say. Like all of his movies are always like diving deep in the mind and the implications of that. And The Shining is no different. I mean, you could argue, yeah, there is some supernatural elements to it, but then again, it's like, you know, this is Kubrick. Nothing is left to chance for it, and that it's like, and that's what someone said. Oh, there's this funny thing I heard too. It's like, well, it's like you want to know like what's going on in this hotel. It's being directed by Stanley Kubrick.
So you already know what you're gonna get. You know.
He is the villain in this movie.
Apparently, he's a villain in real. Oh, he was a villain in real life. He's dead now, but he was a villain in real life too. Apparently,
He was.
or
He
he was.
was. I mean,
Some
I
actor.
agree. He was wrong for. I mean, yeah, he was wrong to do what he did as far as like, being so harsh and being so perfectionist and just practically torturing the cast and crew just to get his vision. But at the same time, it's I kind of
Think about if he didn't do that though.
you wouldn't have some of the greatest movies ever made, and it's like, yeah, I mean, when Stanley Kubrick was second to none. I mean, I can watch probably about all of his movies, and and there's such a layer of perfection in all of them. Like a deeply obsessive man who, you know, and The Shining, I think, more than anything, is that kind of symmetry, and I think honestly that's what made this movie such a I don't know. We had this conversation not too long ago about psychological horror, and I definitely think you can consider it psychological horror too,
Hmm.
even in the context of it being supernatural. But that's what is the mystery of The Shining. One of the biggest theories is like, is it just happening all in their heads, or is this shit real? And like you said, you don't know. It never lets you know.
Yeah,
It keeps
and
that a question mark.
that's one of the things too is what Stanley Kubrick did in this movie. He did, in terms of cinematography, he showed you exactly what the vision that he wanted. He said, "Look, I don't give a fuck what you guys read from Stephen King. What I'm about to give y'all, it's gonna be the same story, but it's gonna be completely different,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna make you think. It's gonna make you question some things in life, and that's one of the things I like about this movie too. And what we don't get enough. I mean, look, granted, I don't feel like we do need too much of it, um, in mainstream film, anyways. But I do feel like it is better when we do get more of like movies that do make you think. Horror movies that make you think, action movies that make you think, detective movies that make all kinds of shit. This is one of those movies that kind of makes you think. Stanley Kubrick doesn't want you to just sit down and watch a horror movie. If he wants you to do that, you can go and watch Halloween 4. You can go and watch Friday 13th. You can go and watch A Nightmare on Elm Street or
It's
a Chucky movie.
It's not a guided tour. You
Yeah.
know, like you feel like when you watch a lot of horror movies, you feel like something's holding your hand. It's like going through a haunted trail. You feel like, you always have this kind of path and scene. And like you put your finger on it a minute ago because it's like you don't really have a favorite scene because it's all good, but it's like that's what blows my mind about it, because the whole movie feels just like one sequence, unbroken. Mm-hmm. It's like just the way each scene link goes into the next feels seamless, almost like dreamlike.
You know what? You know what that makes me think of too is how come I believe there was a shot in the movie where Jack Nicholson's walking through one of the doors, and it does give you a little bit of but I can't remember which shot it was. It gave him like a little bit of a shine, but I didn't know if that was like a callback to anything. I didn't know if that was like I'm trying to see if I can remember which shot it was. It was very brief, but look, man. Before I watched this movie, I was like, look, I already knew it was a classic. I already knew that it's one of the greatest, regarded as one of the greatest movies of all time. But bro, after watching this, man, this is probably up there for me in terms of horror.
Yeah,
I might have to put this up there, man. I mean, think about when we did Jacob's Ladder. Well, I don't think you did it, but when I did a review of Jacob's Ladder when we did a film panel a couple years ago. Yeah. And this is kind of giving me those same vibes where it's like after you watch it, because remember I saw this like 2 days ago. For hours, I'm sitting there, I'm doing this and doing that, and still thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, damn, man.
Yeah.
That movie was fucked up. This part was messed up. That part was, but you're still trying to understand what pretty much what you watched in the movie. Seeing a man is dealing with his inner demons, dealing with his mental. And in saying that, look, he just cannot overcome it. He simply just could not overcome it. But like I said, man, I don't want to keep mentioning talking in circles or whatever when it comes to that. But holy fuck, man, I have to put this movie up there. If we're gonna get into grades, man, if I had to give this movie a grade, I'm gonna have to get it a solid A. Solid A. Yeah. I think the only thing that would keep me from giving it A+, maybe a little bit more, of a kill count. But other than that, this movie was pretty good. It's pretty fucking good.
Yes. I mean,
yeah, definitely, 40 something years after this movie comes out, it still holds up.
Yeah, it's 40 years old. Hard to believe that too, but it just seems like, but it seems so timeless too. It seems like this movie, like, and anyone people are still watching it. People are still like, there's young people who are still talking about this movie because it has such a power to it, and by the way, Jacob's Ladder was a good movie too. Just throwing that out there, and but no, I think it's The Shining. If I give it a grade, it's an A+ for me, because it is just. Yeah, I think it's one of the few horror movies where I could truly say it is perfect. I mean, there is, even if like everything is deliberate, everything is like so, because again, you're dealing with Kubrick, a man who just is top tier director that's ever lived, just cultivating for us, weaving together one of the densest, most mysterious, like there's such a mystery, like that's what's so what gets me about The Shining is that it's been 40 years and we still don't know what's going on in this movie. Truly, there's theories that people saying that if it's a coded message that about the moon landing. That Stanley Kubrick. There's always that the conspiracy theory that Stanley Kubrick directed the famous moon landing footage. You know, and dude, I swear to God, it's a theory, and there's people who make some pretty compelling arguments about it that it's a code that The Shining was a coded message. That yeah, I did that, and and it's like, and there's but and again that documentary does have some really fascinating insights into the movie that could make sense that do make sense, but that's what makes this movie so fascinating is that you really can't get a grasp on it because it's just a movie that refuses to be understood. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get to comprehend it. This is a movie that'll stick with you. And that's I think honestly that's the movies I think the smartest movies or the best movies they don't leave you with an answer. They leave you with a question. Something you'll keep thinking about.
Something to ponder about.
Exactly. And The Shining in this case just leaves you just like you've seen something as high quality a film has ever been made in the horror genre and you don't understand it. That's what's scary. And then again, when you reduce horror to its guts, it's what doesn't make sense that scares us the most. You can't make sense of it.
Fear of the unknown.
The unknown.
Fear of the unknown.
And we know and 40 years on, we still don't know what the fuck this movie's about.
Yeah, I had to put the creepy Scooby Doo in there, man.
Oh my
Go
god.
Ruby.
That's exactly like yeah, that's the we solved the mystery finally.
Oh man. Well, yeah, Jake. Any last words about The Shining, man? Because yeah, like I said, man, I don't want to keep sound like a broken record, but yeah, after watching this for the full blown actual movie for the first time,
Yeah.
I got to put it up there as one of my favorites after watching this. Like this movie is not just a classic, but it is still one of the greatest horror movies of all time. One of the greatest ones that I've seen because I'm sitting here looking back. Maybe it's because I'm watching on HBO Max, so maybe it's not the exact same lens that people that watched it in the 80s. I'm sure they did some rendering with the cameras, the effects and everything on screen, in terms of like the quality of the movie. But other than that, man, I mean, this is the exact same fucking movie. So, still, one of the greatest, I think. Definitely. I'm not really big on rankings, so I'm not even going to try and rank it. It's not like in my top 5 favorites. But you talk about greatest Halloween 4 to me, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Most people probably wouldn't say so, but me, I would say so. Um,
Yeah.
when it comes, is that me? Oh shit! Oh, I was like, yo, what the fuck? No, but to me, Halloween 4, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. The Shining, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Uh, one of my favorite, maybe not so much, but definitely, I'd probably put that up there. If I had a top 20 list, Shining would be in it, most definitely.
I'd even go as far to say is it one of those movies that scare because that's another thing is that what's a horror movie that scares you more than any other movie? You know what I mean? That movie that kind of gets under your skin, really gets in your head. And that's why I think I would say, and again, I wouldn't say like The Shining is my absolute favorite horror movie. It's one of them,
Mm-hmm.
but I could definitely say without a shadow of a doubt, it's the scariest movie for me that I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of them, and this one, I'm 30 years old, and it's still like, you know, unsettles me. It really is, and And I think, and I envy you too because you're just getting started. Like we're probably gonna end up having to do another cast in the future, just like discussing this movie again because it's
Yeah.
like this is one
Or
of those
even Doctor Sleep.
exactly Doctor Sleep.
I do have a question about that real quick. Real quick. Does Jack Nicholson have a cameo in that movie? Yay or nay? He does?
I'm honestly not gonna tell you. I think I would. I'm not gonna spoil that for you.
I'm kind of because I'm like, if they have Jack Nicholson around, like, why wouldn't he be at least have a? I mean, I'm sure he's not a main character. Obviously, you got Ian McGregor playing. Do you know why they didn't get the original actor to play Danny? Is just because he's not that attractive, like looking?
He wasn't acting at the time.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he was.
So he kind of stepped out of acting. It's crazy when you see people from these large classic movies from back in the day that just don't even act anymore. Like they're just not even in the business anymore at all. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, look, that was The Shining, a movie discussion that we had about it. Look, we could stay here for hours to talk about this movie. I could just sit here for like another 2 hours and sit here and just ask Jake questions about the movie and on his mouth about the behind the scenes stuff, man. But make sure you guys hit that like, hit that follow, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys go and follow Jake on his socials as well, man. Jake, how's the channel doing, man?
We're doing good. 266 subscribers.
Hell yeah.
And I'm very happy about that. I'm thinking about trying to I really want to start hammering down on some more oh my goodness. The house is burning down. It's the end of the book. But I actually really want to start hammering down on more horror stuff too because it's Halloween. It's done got me into back into my, I'm in a horror relapse, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been writing a lot of stuff about horror lately, and I actually would like to start doing more movie reviews in general. Start talking more about movies, and start growing. Maybe start leaning the channel more in that direction. And other than that, yeah, the channel's doing good. If people want to come subscribe, feel free. And my Twitter, if anyone wants to talk to me. And of course, just we're here on, half-ass always, and again, you could definitely, I'm gonna push you for it. I'll talk about The Shining anytime you want. We'll do part 2. I don't care. We'll do it. We'll do 3, 4, 5. Let's go through. Like I could talk about this movie for hours. Don't even get me started.
Bet. But yeah, make sure you guys head over there. Hit that subscribe button when you guys go over to Jake's channel, man. Show him some love. Make sure you guys stay tuned over here. I just finished recording. I'm going back to making videos again, guys. Don't worry. What I've been doing lately is just doing the live streams that we do. I'll just clip those. But now I'm doing a little bit of both. So I'm trying to get my algorithm back up on the channel because my algorithm on this channel is ass right now. It's been like that for a few months just because I've just done a whole bunch of different shit with this channel. But getting right back on track with uploading videos. I just recorded a video about Sasha Banks Mercedes Monet and her fan signing interaction. So that should be up tomorrow here on the channel. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Got some more live streams coming to you. Got some more videos coming to you all as well. I am leaning a little bit more into more wrestling stuff, but don't get it twisted. I'm still talking about the clown world, crazy shit going out here in the world too. Still talking about film like I always do, the entertainment industry. So stay tuned for those videos as well. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that follow. Jake and I will be back here on the Hat Film panel sometime next week before Halloween ends. And I'm not talking about that shitty movie. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that as well. It's your boy Corn. It's brother Jake. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Hat Film panel. And we are OU.